Listen to me carefully. There comes a moment in your life when you have to stop asking, why am I still here? And start believing, I am not staying here forever. You have faced delays. You have faced disappointment. You have watched opportunities pass you by. You have worked hard while wondering why the results were taking so long. Maybe people underestimated you. Maybe circumstances made you question yourself. Maybe you started believing that the door would never open. But I came to tell you something today. God says nothing will hold you back anymore. The thing that tried to stop you will not have the final word over your life. The rejection does not have the final word. The delay does not have the final word. The mistake does not have the final word. The difficult season does not have the final word. God has not brought you this far for you to remain stuck. There is still more inside you. There are abilities you have not fully discovered, opportunities you have not yet seen, and levels of growth you have not yet experienced. And sometimes, the greatest breakthrough begins when you make one decision. I refuse to let yesterday control tomorrow. You have spent enough time looking at what went wrong. Now it is time to look at what can go right. You have spent enough time measuring yourself by your past. Now measure yourself by the potential God placed inside you. I want you to understand this. Being delayed is not the same as being denied. Sometimes life slows you down because you're being prepared for something bigger than what you originally imagined. So if you've been feeling stuck, listen closely. Your story is not finished. God is removing the limitations that made you think you could only go so far. He is giving you the strength to move beyond fear, beyond doubt, beyond old patterns, and beyond the opinions of people who never saw your potential. You don't have to remain the person you were 5 years ago. You don't have to carry yesterday's disappointment into tomorrow. You don't have to keep asking permission to become who you were created to become. Stand up, lift your head, move forward, because the season of constantly being held back is coming to an end. And from this moment forward, I want you to say it with confidence. Nothing will hold me back anymore. There comes a time when you have to make a decision. Will you continue carrying yesterday into tomorrow, or will you finally give yourself permission to move forward? Your past is real. The things that happened to you are real. The disappointment was real. The rejection was real. The failure was real. But none of those things have to become your permanent identity. Sometimes the greatest thing holding a person back is not what is happening around them, but what they keep telling themselves about what happened before. You failed once, so you tell yourself, I always fail. Someone rejected you, so you begin thinking, nobody will ever choose me. One opportunity disappeared, and suddenly you believe opportunities don't exist anymore. But listen carefully. One chapter of your life is not the entire story. Think about a student who fails an important exam. The result comes back and they see a number they don't like. For a moment, disappointment takes over. They may feel embarrassed. They may compare themselves with their friends. They may think their future is finished. But what happens if that student decides to study differently, learn from the mistakes, practice every day, and try again? The failure that once looked like the end becomes part of the preparation for success. That is how life works. Sometimes what you call a failure is actually a lesson you needed before your next opportunity. Maybe you started a business and it didn't work. Maybe you applied for jobs and received rejection after rejection. Maybe you trusted somebody and they disappointed you. Maybe you worked hard for something and watched somebody else receive it first. Maybe you made decisions that you wish you could go back and change. You cannot go backward and rewrite those moments, but you can go forward and write what happens next. God does not need your past to be perfect in order to give your future purpose. Your mistakes do not make you useless. Your difficult seasons do not make you hopeless. The fact that something went wrong does not mean everything will always go wrong. Look at a person learning to ride a bicycle. The first time they fall, they don't usually conclude, I was never meant to ride. They get back up. They adjust their balance. They try again. They fall again. They learn again. Eventually, something that once felt impossible becomes natural. Your life can work the same way. You may have fallen, but falling does not mean you have to stay on the ground. There are people listening to me right now who are still living emotionally in a moment that happened years ago. Someone said something to you, and you still hear those words. Someone walked away, and you still carry the pain. An opportunity was taken from you, and you still believe that was your only chance. But what if it wasn't? What if the door that closed was not the only door available to you? What if the rejection redirected you towards something better? What if the season that broke your confidence was also the season that taught you how strong you really are? You don't have to understand every chapter to keep turning the pages. There is a difference between remembering your past and being controlled by your past. You can remember what happened without allowing it to determine what happens next. If you made a mistake, learn from it. If you lost something, grieve it, but don't lose yourself with it. If somebody rejected you, let it teach you, not define you. If you failed, study the failure and rise wiser. If you were delayed, keep preparing. Because your past can be a teacher without becoming your master. God can take experiences that you thought would destroy your confidence and use them to build your character. The struggle can teach you patience. The disappointment can teach you discernment. The rejection can teach you resilience. The waiting can teach you preparation. So stop saying, I am behind. Stop saying, it is too late. Stop saying, I already ruined everything. You are still here. That means there is still something ahead of you. You woke up today with another opportunity to make a different decision, develop a different habit, change your mindset, improve your skills, repair what can be repaired, and move toward the life you want. You don't need to fix your entire life in one day. You just need to stop allowing yesterday to steal today. Take one step, make one call, learn one skill, apply for one opportunity, start one project. Forgive yourself for one mistake. Walk away from one habit that keeps pulling you backward. Sometimes your breakthrough begins with something that looks incredibly small. A person who wants to become financially successful doesn't become successful by thinking about money all day. They begin by learning, working, saving, improving, and making better decisions consistently. A person who wants a better career doesn't wake up one morning with everything changed. They build their skills, they send applications, they face rejection, they improve their resume, they keep trying. A person who wants confidence doesn't wait until they feel fearless. They take action while they are still nervous. That is how you move forward. You don't need to have every answer today. You don't need to know exactly how everything will happen. You simply need to refuse to surrender your future to your past. And I want you to remember this. What happened to you is part of your story, but it is not the final sentence. There are still mornings you haven't seen, opportunities you haven't discovered, people you haven't met, lessons you haven't learned, and possibilities you cannot imagine from where you are standing today. So lift your head. Stop introducing yourself to your future through the mistakes of your past. You are allowed to grow. You are allowed to change. You are allowed to begin again. You are allowed to become stronger than the person you used to be. And when that old voice tells you you can't, remind yourself that you have survived things you once thought you couldn't survive. You have already made it through difficult days. You have already overcome moments that once seemed impossible. And if God has brought you through those seasons, don't assume your story ends there. Your past may have shaped you, but it does not have to imprison you. Let yesterday teach you. Let today transform you. And let tomorrow surprise you. Because the moment you stop allowing your past to decide your future is the moment you begin creating space for something new. You are not going backward anymore. You are moving forward, and nothing will hold you back anymore. Sometimes the hardest part of life is not failure, it is waiting. You can handle a difficult day when you know it will end. But waiting becomes difficult when you don't know how long the season will last. You work hard, you stay consistent, you keep hoping, and still nothing seems to change. You look around and see other people moving forward while you feel like your own life is standing still. But I want you to hear this clearly. A delay is not the same thing as an ending. Just because something has not happened yet does not mean it will never happen. There are moments when God allows you to wait because the timing matters. You may be ready for the opportunity, but the opportunity may not be ready for you. You may want the result, but you may still need the preparation. You may be asking for a door to open while God is working on the person who will walk through that door. Think about a seed. When you plant a seed in the ground, you don't see a tree the next morning. You don't dig it up every few hours and say, why isn't anything happening? You understand that something is happening beneath the surface, even when your eyes cannot see it. The seed is developing roots. The foundation is forming. The process is happening underground. And then at the right time, something finally breaks through the soil. Your life can be like that. You may look at your circumstances and think nothing is happening. But just because you cannot see movement does not mean there is no movement. Maybe you have been applying for jobs and receiving rejection emails. Every time you open your inbox, you hope for good news, and instead you see another disappointment. After enough rejection, your mind starts telling you, maybe I'm not good enough. But what if the rejection is not the end of your journey? What if every application is teaching you something? Maybe you are improving your communication. Maybe you're discovering what employers are looking for. Maybe you're becoming more confident in interviews. Maybe you're learning skills that will eventually make you qualified for an opportunity you cannot see yet. Don't let a temporary no convince you that your entire future is a no. There are people who stopped trying one step before their opportunity arrived. Imagine someone standing outside a door. They knock once and nobody answers. They knock twice, still nothing. They become frustrated and walk away. But what if they had knocked one more time? What if the person inside was coming toward the door? What if the delay was only a delay? This is why you cannot make permanent decisions based on temporary circumstances. You may be tired today. You may be disappointed today. You may feel behind today. But today is not your entire life. Your current situation is a snapshot, not the whole picture. Think about someone learning a new skill. In the beginning, everything feels difficult. They make mistakes. They forget things. They compare themselves with people who have been doing it for years. They wonder why they are not improving faster. But then they practice again and again and again. One day, something that used to take an hour takes 20 minutes. Something that once seemed confusing suddenly becomes simple. Was the person failing during the earlier days? No, they were developing. Progress was happening slowly. That is what you need to understand about your own life. Slow progress is still progress. Waiting is not wasted time when you use it to prepare. Maybe your dream has not happened yet because you are still becoming the person who can handle it. If you received everything you wanted before developing patience, discipline, wisdom, and responsibility, would you know how to keep it? Sometimes the waiting season is where your character becomes strong enough for the next season. You may be asking God, when? But perhaps the better question is, what can I become while I wait? What can you learn? What can you improve? What habit can you build? What fear can you overcome? What skill can you develop? What mistake can you stop repeating? Because waiting does not mean sitting still. Waiting can mean preparing. A person waiting for a better job can improve their skills. A person waiting for financial improvement can learn how to manage money. A person waiting for a new opportunity can become more prepared. A person waiting for a better future can start building better habits today. Don't waste your waiting season complaining about the door that hasn't opened. Prepare yourself for the door when it does. And remember, other people's timelines are not your timetable. You might look at someone else's life and think, they got their opportunity before me. But you don't know what their journey required. You don't know what they faced behind the scenes. You don't know what they had to learn. You don't know where their path is taking them. Your journey is your journey. A flower doesn't look at another flower and say, why did you bloom before me? It simply grows. So grow. Keep learning. Keep improving. Keep moving. And trust that the timing of your life does not have to look like anybody else's. There may be something you have been praying for that has not arrived yet. Don't automatically assume that God has forgotten you. Sometimes the answer is not no. Sometimes it is not yet. And not yet requires patience. It requires faith. It requires you to keep going when there is no immediate evidence. Think about the person who keeps exercising even before they see physical results. They don't quit after 3 days because the mirror hasn't changed. They understand that transformation takes time. The same is true in your life. You cannot plant today and demand the harvest tomorrow. You have to give the process time. So if you are in a season of waiting right now, don't allow frustration to make you quit. Your story is still developing. The chapter may feel slow, but slow chapters still belong to the story. You may not understand why the opportunity has been delayed. You may not understand why the relationship didn't work. You may not understand why the plan changed. You may not understand why you had to wait longer than expected. But you don't have to understand everything to keep moving. Sometimes you simply have to trust that the delay is not the destination. Your current situation is not your final location. There is still more ahead. And when the right opportunity comes, you want to be ready. You don't want to spend your waiting season becoming bitter. You want to spend it becoming better. Don't let the silence convince you that nothing is happening. Don't let the delay convince you that God has abandoned your purpose. Don't let somebody else's success convince you that your opportunity has passed. Your time can still come. Your door can still open. Your circumstances can still change. Your life can still move in a completely different direction. So keep going. Keep preparing. Keep believing. Keep becoming. Because sometimes the greatest breakthrough comes after the longest period of preparation. And when the moment finally arrives, you will look back and realize that the waiting was not punishment, it was preparation. The delay did not destroy your future, it developed you for it. So don't give up because you haven't seen the result yet. You are still in the process. And as long as the story is still being written, there is still another page to turn. Keep moving forward. Your delay is not the end. Nothing will hold you back anymore. Fear has a way of making something small look bigger than it really is. It can take one possibility of failure and make you believe failure is guaranteed. It can take one rejection and convince you that you should never try again. It can make an opportunity appear in front of you, and instead of seeing possibility, you see every reason why you might not be good enough. But listen to me carefully. Fear is not a prophecy. Just because you are afraid does not mean something bad is going to happen. Sometimes fear is simply the voice of uncertainty trying to keep you inside what feels familiar. Think about someone who wants to apply for a better job. They see the position, they know they have many of the required skills, and they think about applying. But then the questions begin, what if they reject me? What if someone is more qualified? What if I fail the interview? What if they think I'm not good enough? So they don't apply. The next day, the position is gone. Nothing actually happened to them. Nobody rejected them. Nobody told them they weren't qualified. They rejected themselves before anyone else had the opportunity to make a decision. That is what fear can do. Fear can make you lose opportunities that were never actually lost. You have to learn the difference between danger and discomfort. Sometimes your mind tells you that because something feels uncomfortable, it must be dangerous. But growth often feels uncomfortable. Learning something new feels uncomfortable. Starting over feels uncomfortable. Speaking in front of people feels uncomfortable. Applying for something bigger feels uncomfortable. Walking away from an old habit feels uncomfortable. But discomfort does not mean you are going in the wrong direction. Sometimes discomfort means you are leaving the place that has been keeping you small. Think about a person who has always been afraid of speaking. They avoid presentations, conversations, interviews, and situations where attention might be placed on them. Then one day, they decide they are tired of allowing fear to control their choices. They start small. They speak for 30 seconds, then 1 minute, then 5 minutes. They make mistakes. They become nervous. Their voice shakes, but they keep going. Eventually, something changes. The situation that once terrified them becomes something they can handle. Did the fear disappear before they acted? No. They acted while they were still afraid. That is courage. Courage does not mean you never feel fear. Courage means fear does not get to make every decision for you. There may be something you have been avoiding because you are afraid of what could happen. Maybe you want to start something new. Maybe you want to change your career. Maybe you want to learn a skill. Maybe you want to create something. Maybe you want to approach an opportunity. Maybe you need to leave behind something that has been damaging your confidence. Whatever it is, Don't allow the question, what if I fail, to become louder than the question, what if I succeed? You have spent enough time imagining the worst possible outcome. Now imagine what could happen if you actually tried. What if the application gets accepted? What if the interview goes well? What if the business grows? What if the skill you learn changes your future? What if the opportunity you are afraid to pursue becomes the opportunity that changes your life? You don't know. And that is exactly why you have to move. The future is uncertain for everyone. The person who succeeds is not necessarily the person who knows exactly what will happen. Often, it is the person who is willing to take the next step without having every answer. God can give you strength to face what you cannot predict, but you still have to take the step. You still have to open the door. You still have to make the call. You still have to send the application. You still have to begin. Don't wait until you feel completely confident. Confidence is often created by action. You take the step, you survive it, you learn from it, and then you realize, I can do this. Then you take another step, and another. One day you look back and realize the thing you were once terrified of no longer controls you. Fear becomes smaller when you stop feeding it with avoidance. Imagine a person who is afraid of water. They stand at the edge of a swimming pool, looking at the water and imagining everything that could go wrong. Every day they stay at the edge, their fear remains exactly where it is. But when they begin learning with someone experienced, slowly entering the water, practicing and becoming comfortable, the fear begins to lose its power. The water didn't magically change, they changed. Their understanding changed. Their confidence changed. Their ability changed. Sometimes the obstacle isn't the situation. Sometimes the obstacle is the belief that you cannot handle the situation. And that belief can change. You have survived difficult moments before. You have faced days you thought you couldn't get through. You have experienced disappointment and still continued. You have made mistakes and learned. You have been hurt and still found a reason to wake up the next morning. So why are you convinced that you cannot handle whatever comes next? You may not know exactly how you will handle it, but you can learn, you can adapt, you can grow, you can become stronger. God did not put you on this earth so that fear could dictate the size of your life. Don't make your world smaller just because you are afraid of what is outside your comfort zone. There is a bigger version of you waiting on the other side of the decisions you keep postponing. And maybe today is the day you stop saying, I'm too afraid. Maybe today you say, I'm afraid, but I'm moving anyway. That one decision can change everything. You don't have to defeat every fear in one day. Start with one. Do the thing you have been avoiding. Take the step you have been postponing. Speak the words you have been afraid to say. Try the opportunity you have been talking yourself out of. And if you stumble, don't call yourself a failure. Get back up. If you make a mistake, learn. If someone says no, keep searching for the right yes. If the first attempt doesn't work, improve the second attempt. Your life cannot be controlled by the possibility of failure. Because if you allow fear to decide everything, you may protect yourself from disappointment, but you will also protect yourself from growth. You will never discover how far you could have gone because you never allowed yourself to begin. So stop giving fear the authority that belongs to you. You are not required to feel fearless before you move forward. You only need enough courage to take the next step. And when you take that step, take another. Soon you will realize something powerful. The fear that once controlled you was never as powerful as you believed. It was a voice. And you don't have to obey every voice you hear. God is greater than the fear trying to convince you that your future is impossible. So lift your head. Take a breath. Take the step. Move forward. Because the moment you stop allowing fear to control your decisions is the moment you begin discovering what is possible. Fear may be present, but it does not have to be in charge. And from this moment forward, remind yourself, I will not let fear hold me back anymore. There will be moments in your life when people will look at you and see limitations that God never placed on you. They may remember your mistakes, your old struggles, your failures, or the version of you that existed years ago. They may tell you that your dream is too big, your goal is unrealistic, or your plans will never work. But you have to understand something. People's opinions are not the final authority over your future. Not everyone will understand what you are trying to build. Not everyone will understand why you keep trying. Not everyone will understand why you refuse to give up after disappointment. And that's okay. You don't need everyone to understand you. You need to understand where you are going. Think about a small seed. If someone looked at that seed and said, "There is nothing impressive here," they would only be judging what they can see today. They would not see the tree that could eventually grow from it. They would not see the branches, the shade, the fruit, or the strength hidden inside that tiny seed. Sometimes people look at you the same way. They see your current position, but they don't see your potential. They see your circumstances, but they don't see your future. They see where you started, but they don't know where God is taking you. Maybe someone has told you you can't do that. Maybe someone laughed at your dream. Maybe someone reminded you of everything you have done wrong. Maybe somebody said, "Be realistic." But sometimes be realistic simply means don't become something that I cannot imagine. And you cannot allow somebody else's imagination to become the ceiling over your life. Think about a person who decides to learn a new skill. At the beginning, they are not very good. They make mistakes. They ask simple questions. They struggle with things that experienced people find easy. Someone watching them may laugh and say, "You will never become good at this." Now imagine that person believes the criticism. They stop learning, they stop practicing, they give up. Years later, they may look back and wonder what they could have become if they had continued. Don't let somebody else's doubt become your decision. There are people who will criticize your first attempt while having no idea how many attempts it took for you to get there. You cannot build your future around the approval of people who are committed to remembering your past. Some people will only recognize your potential after you have already proven it, but by then, their approval is no longer necessary. You have to learn how to believe in the work God is doing inside you, even when nobody else can see it yet. That doesn't mean ignoring good advice. Wisdom matters. If someone genuinely cares about you and gives you constructive advice, listen, learn, improve. But there is a difference between wise correction and destructive criticism. Wise correction helps you become better. Destructive criticism makes you believe you should never try. Know the difference. Sometimes the loudest voices around you are not the most knowledgeable voices. Someone can have an opinion about your life without understanding your journey. Someone can judge your decision without knowing what you have experienced. Someone can question your dream without knowing what God has placed inside your heart. So don't give every opinion equal weight. Imagine you are driving toward a destination. If 10 people standing on the street tell you to turn around, but you have a map showing you exactly where you are going, will you abandon the destination because strangers don't understand the route? No, you keep driving. Your life needs that kind of focus. You need to know what matters to you. You need to know what you are working toward. You need to know what kind of person you are becoming. Because when you know where you are going, every opinion does not have the power to redirect you. There may be someone listening right now who has been shrinking themselves to make other people comfortable. You stopped talking about your dreams because people made fun of them. You stopped trying because someone told you that you weren't capable. You stopped believing in yourself because someone repeatedly reminded you of your failures. But today you need to take your confidence back. You don't have to become arrogant. You don't have to prove everybody wrong. You don't have to argue with every critic. Sometimes the most powerful response is simply to keep growing. Let your consistency speak. Let your discipline speak. Let your progress speak. Let your results speak. You don't have to announce every move. You don't have to explain every decision. You don't have to convince everybody that you are capable. Just keep doing the work. There is something powerful about quietly becoming the person people once said you could never become. The person who was told they would never succeed becomes successful. The person who was told they would never learn becomes skilled. The person who was told they would never recover becomes stronger. The person who was told they would never accomplish anything starts accomplishing things they once thought were impossible. And one day they realize they didn't need permission, they needed persistence. So if somebody doesn't see your potential, don't waste your entire life trying to force them to see it. Keep building, keep learning, keep improving, keep moving. Because the people who doubt you today may not be able to understand the version of you that will exist tomorrow. Your potential is not determined by somebody else's opinion. Your future is not limited by somebody else's imagination. And your worth is not measured by somebody else's approval. God knows what He placed inside you. God knows the abilities you haven't discovered yet. God knows the doors you haven't reached yet. God knows the opportunities that are still ahead. So stop looking for validation from people who only see your present circumstances. Start respecting the process. Start believing that you can grow. Start giving yourself permission to become better. And if someone says you can't, don't spend your energy fighting with them. Let your life answer. Let your growth answer. Let your consistency answer. Let your future answer. Because you don't need to be understood by everyone to move forward. You only need enough courage to keep going when nobody is applauding. And remember this, some people can only see the person you have been, but God can see the person you are becoming. Don't allow somebody else's limited vision to become your limitation. You were not created to live according to every opinion around you. You were created to grow, to learn, to rise, and to become everything God has placed within you. So lift your head. Stop shrinking. Stop apologizing for having dreams. Stop allowing criticism to make you question your potential. Take your next step with confidence. Because the people who don't see your potential don't get to decide your destination. Their doubt is not your destiny. And from this moment forward, don't let anybody's opinion hold you back anymore. There is more inside you than what your current circumstances are showing you. Sometimes you look at your life and judge your potential by what you have accomplished so far. You look at your bank account, your job, your skills, your past mistakes, your failures, and your current situation, and you say, maybe this is all I can become. But I want you to understand something. Your current situation is not a complete picture of your potential. You may be standing in a small place today while carrying the ability to build something much bigger tomorrow. Think about a person who has never used a computer before. The first time they sit in front of one, everything may look complicated. There are buttons they don't understand, programs they have never opened, and tasks that seem impossible. If they decide, I'm just not capable of this, they will never discover what they can learn. But imagine they decide to practice every day. At first, they learn one simple thing, then another. They make mistakes. They ask questions. They try again. After a few weeks, they can do things they couldn't do before. After a few months, they may become confident enough to use those skills professionally. What changed? Their potential was already there. They simply had not developed it yet. And sometimes that is exactly where you are. You are judging yourself before giving yourself enough time to grow. You are saying, I can't, when the truth may simply be, I haven't learned how yet. There's a huge difference between I can't and I can't yet. I can't closes the door. I can't yet leaves the door open. That small word, yet, can change your entire mindset. Maybe you are not where you want to be financially yet. Maybe you don't have the career you want yet. Maybe you don't have the confidence you want yet. Maybe you haven't reached the goal you have been working toward yet. But don't confuse not yet with never. A person learning to walk doesn't take 2 steps and say, I guess walking isn't for me. They fall. They stand again. They fall again. They keep practicing until their body learns what their mind once thought was impossible. You need to give yourself that same patience. Stop expecting yourself to be excellent at something you have only recently started. Stop comparing your beginning with somebody else's middle. You may look at another person's success and think, they are so far ahead of me. But you don't see the years of practice behind their success. You don't see the mistakes. You don't see the failures. You don't see the mornings they didn't want to get up. You don't see the nights they questioned themselves. You are comparing your behind the scenes to somebody else's highlight reel. And that comparison can destroy your confidence if you allow it. Instead, compare yourself with who you were yesterday. Are you learning? Are you improving? Are you becoming more disciplined? Are you making better decisions? Are you becoming more confident? If the answer is yes, then you are moving, and movement matters. Maybe your progress is slow, but slow progress is still progress. Think about someone saving money. They may only be able to save a small amount each week. It may seem insignificant at first, but they keep doing it. 1 week becomes 1 month. 1 month becomes 6 months. Eventually, the small amounts become something meaningful. The same principle applies to your abilities. 1 page read, 1 skill practiced, 1 application submitted, 1 mistake corrected, 1 uncomfortable conversation handled, 1 productive morning, 1 disciplined decision. Small improvements repeated consistently can create a completely different life. You don't need to transform everything overnight. You need to stop underestimating what consistent effort can accomplish. God can place potential inside you, but potential is not the same as achievement. Potential must be developed. You have to practice. You have to learn. You have to become disciplined. You have to keep going when the excitement disappears, because there will be days when you don't feel motivated. There will be days when you question whether the effort is worth it. There will be days when you look at the distance between where you are and where you want to be and think, this is too much. Those are the days when you have to remember why you started. Your future self is depending on the decisions you make today. Imagine meeting the person you could become 5 years from now. What would they say to you? Would they thank you for giving up when things became difficult? Or would they thank you for continuing when you wanted to quit? The person you become tomorrow is being shaped by what you repeatedly do today. So don't speak against yourself. Don't constantly tell yourself that you're not smart enough, talented enough, strong enough, or capable enough. Your mind listens to the words you repeat. If you constantly tell yourself that you can't, eventually you stop trying. But when you begin saying, I can learn, I can improve, I can become better, you start looking for solutions instead of excuses. You start asking different questions. Instead of saying, why can't I do this? You begin asking, what do I need to learn? Instead of saying, why am I behind? You ask, what can I do today to move forward? Instead of saying, I'm not good enough, you say, how can I become better? That is the mindset that creates growth. And understand this, believing in yourself doesn't mean believing that you will never make mistakes. It means believing that mistakes won't destroy you. You can fail and learn. You can fall and rise. You can start again. You can change direction. You can improve. You can become wiser. You can become stronger. You can become more capable than you are today. There may be abilities inside you that have been buried under fear, disappointment, and self-doubt. Maybe you have never discovered your full potential because you have never given yourself permission to try. So try. Start the project. Learn the skill. Take the opportunity. Apply for the position. Create something. Speak up. Take the next step. You don't have to know exactly where every step will lead. You simply have to believe that you are capable of taking the next one. And when you discover that you can take one step, you will realize you can take another, then another. Eventually, you will look back and realize that the person who once said, I can't, became the person who said, look how far I've come. God has not finished developing you. Your current level is not your final level. Your current knowledge is not your final knowledge. Your current circumstances are not your final circumstances. There is still room for growth. There is still room for improvement. There is still room for opportunity. There is still room for something greater. So stop measuring your potential by your past. Stop measuring your future by your present. You are capable of learning things you don't know today. You are capable of becoming stronger than you are today. You are capable of achieving things that currently seem far away. You don't need to have everything figured out. You just need to believe that growth is possible and then take action. Give yourself permission to become. Give yourself permission to learn. Give yourself permission to fail without quitting. Give yourself permission to start again. And every morning, remind yourself, I am not finished. I am still growing. I am still learning. There is more inside me, because there is more in you than what you have seen so far. Don't let your current circumstances convince you that your future has no possibilities. God placed potential inside you for a reason. Now, develop it. Believe in it. Work on it. Protect it. And keep moving forward, because the person you are becoming may be far greater than the person you have ever imagined. You are capable of more, and nothing will hold you back anymore. There are moments in life when an opportunity finally appears after you have waited, prepared, struggled, and hoped for change. But sometimes the strange thing is that when the opportunity arrives, fear arrives with it. You wanted the door to open, but when it finally opens, you start asking yourself, am I ready? What if I fail? What if I make the wrong decision? What if I am not good enough? Listen to me carefully. You cannot spend your whole life waiting for the perfect moment to move. There will never be a day when every fear disappears, every question has an answer, and everything feels completely safe. Sometimes you have to move while your hands are shaking. Sometimes you have to step forward while you are still learning. Sometimes you have to say yes to an opportunity before you feel completely prepared. Think about someone who has been searching for a better job for months. They finally receive an invitation for an interview. This is the moment they have been waiting for, but instead of preparing with confidence, they begin thinking about everything that could go wrong. They think, what if they ask me something I don't know? What if someone else is better? What if they reject me? If they allow those thoughts to control them, they may walk into the interview already defeated. But what if they choose a different response? What if they say, I may not know everything, but I will prepare. I will show up. I will give my best. I will learn from the experience. That mindset changes everything. An opportunity does not always arrive looking impressive. Sometimes it looks like a small conversation. Sometimes it looks like a new responsibility. Sometimes it looks like an unfamiliar task. Sometimes it looks like an invitation to learn something you have never done before. Don't overlook small beginnings because you are waiting for something dramatic. A person may be given a small project at work. They could think, this is beneath me, this isn't important. But what if that small project becomes the opportunity to demonstrate their ability? What if someone notices their dedication? What if that responsibility leads to something bigger? You don't always know what a small opportunity can become. A tiny door can lead to a large room. That is why you have to pay attention. When God places an opportunity in front of you, don't automatically reject it because it doesn't look exactly like the picture you imagined. Sometimes you're asking for a mountain, but God gives you a staircase. You want immediate success, but you receive a chance to learn. You want a major breakthrough, but you receive a small responsibility. You want the destination, but you are given the first step. Don't despise the first step. The person who eventually becomes successful often begins with something that looks ordinary. A business can begin with one customer. A career can begin with one application. A friendship can begin with one conversation. A skill can begin with one lesson. A dream can begin with one decision. Never underestimate what one courageous decision can start. There is another reason people miss opportunities. They are waiting for permission from everyone around them. They tell everybody their plans and then wait for everybody to agree, but not everyone will understand what you see. Some people are comfortable with the version of you they already know. When you decide to grow, they may become uncomfortable because your growth changes the relationship they have with you. You cannot wait for universal approval before you move forward. Listen to wise advice. Learn from experienced people. Think carefully. But after you have considered the information, you still have to make your own decision. There comes a moment when you have to stop asking everyone, do you think I can? And start telling yourself, I am going to try. Trying is powerful. Because when you try, you gain information. When you try, you discover your strengths. When you try, you discover your weaknesses. When you try, you learn what needs to change. Even if the first attempt doesn't work, you are no longer standing in the same place. Imagine someone learning to drive. The first time they sit behind the wheel, they may be nervous. They might make mistakes. They may not understand every control. But if they refuse to drive until they feel completely confident, they may never become confident. Confidence comes from experience. Experience comes from action. Action begins when you decide to move. The same is true for your life. You cannot think your way into every opportunity. At some point, you have to act. Maybe you have been thinking about starting something for months. Maybe you've been saying, one day. Maybe you have been waiting for the right time. But ask yourself honestly, how many opportunities have you already postponed because you were waiting to feel ready? You don't need perfect conditions. You need preparation, courage, and movement. And understand something important. Moving forward does not mean acting recklessly. It means recognizing when you are prepared enough and refusing to let endless hesitation steal the opportunity. There is a difference between being careless and being courageous. Carelessness ignores consequences. Courage acknowledges the risk and moves anyway when the opportunity is worth pursuing. You can think, you can plan, you can prepare, but eventually you have to act. Because opportunities have seasons. Some opportunities return, some don't. You don't want to look back years from now and say, I wonder what would have happened if I had tried. You want to be able to say, I gave myself a chance. Maybe the opportunity doesn't work out exactly as you hoped. That's okay. Sometimes an opportunity gives you the result you wanted. Sometimes it gives you experience. Sometimes it gives you a connection. Sometimes it teaches you what not to do. Sometimes it leads you towards something completely different. You cannot always measure the value of an opportunity by its immediate result. A rejection can teach you. A failed attempt can prepare you. A new responsibility can develop you. A difficult assignment can reveal your ability. Something that looks like a setback today may become an important part of your story tomorrow. So when the next opportunity appears, don't immediately tell yourself why you can't. Ask yourself, what would happen if I tried? Ask, what can I learn? Ask, how can I prepare? Ask, what is the next step? Then take that step. You don't need to see the entire staircase. You only need to see enough to take the next step. God can open a door, but you still have to walk through it. God can bring an opportunity, but you still have to respond to it. God can give you potential, but you still have to develop it. Don't spend your entire life standing outside doors you prayed would open because you are afraid of what might be on the other side. Walk, step forward, try, learn, grow. And if you make a mistake, remember that one mistake does not cancel your entire future. You can adjust, you can try again, you can become wiser, you can become stronger. The goal is not to guarantee that every decision will succeed. The goal is to stop allowing fear to guarantee that you never begin. There is a version of your life that you cannot reach while standing still. There are experiences you will never have if you never take the chance. There are abilities you will never discover if you never challenge yourself. There are doors you will never know were meant for you if you never reach for the handle. So when the opportunity comes, don't run away simply because it makes you nervous. Prepare yourself, pray, think, then move. Because sometimes the difference between where you are and where you want to be is not another year of waiting. It is one decision, one application, one conversation, one attempt, one courageous step. Your future may be waiting on the other side of the action you keep postponing. So don't hesitate forever. When the right opportunity appears, recognize it. When the door opens, have the courage to walk through it. And when your mind says, what if I fail? Answer with, what if I succeed? Because you will never know what is possible until you give yourself the opportunity to discover it. Move when the opportunity appears. Step forward with courage. God has not brought you this far for you to remain standing still. There comes a moment in life when you have to stop looking backward and start looking forward with confidence. You have survived seasons that once made you wonder if you would ever see better days. You have experienced disappointment, delays, rejection, uncertainty, and moments when you didn't know what would happen next, but you are still here. And if you are still here, your story is still moving. You cannot enter a new season while constantly holding on to the fear of the old one. If you keep expecting tomorrow to look exactly like yesterday, you will approach every new opportunity with an old mindset. You will see a new door and remember an old rejection. You will meet a new person and remember someone who hurt you. You will receive a new opportunity and remember the last time you failed. But your next season deserves a new version of you. Think about someone who has been driving a car while constantly looking in the rearview mirror. The mirror is important. It helps you understand what is behind you, but if you stare at it the entire time, you will eventually miss what is directly in front of you. Your past is like that mirror. Look at it when you need to learn. Look at it when you need to understand. Look at it when you need to remember how far you have come. But don't live there. Your destination is in front of you. There may be something new coming into your life that requires you to think differently. Maybe you are entering a new career. Maybe you are beginning a new project. Maybe you are finally pursuing something you postponed for years. Maybe you are rebuilding your confidence after a difficult season. Whatever it is, don't enter the new chapter carrying the belief that you are still the person you used to be. You have learned, you have grown, you have survived, you have changed, and God can use everything you experience to prepare you for where you are going. Imagine someone who has spent years being afraid to speak because they were once embarrassed in front of others. Every time they have an opportunity to speak, the old memory returns. Their mind says, "Don't do it. Remember what happened last time." But what if this time is different? What if they have practiced? What if they have learned? What if they are stronger now? What if the old experience was not meant to become a permanent prison? They have to make a decision. They can continue allowing one old moment to control every future opportunity. Or they can say, "That happened then. This is now." That sentence can change your life. That happened then. This is now. You are not standing in the same place. You are not dealing with the same circumstances. You are not the same person, so stop treating yourself as if you are. Sometimes we carry old labels into new seasons. I am the one who always fails. I am the one who never gets opportunities. I am not good enough. I am always behind. Things never work for me. Those statements may have been created by painful experiences, but they do not have to become permanent truths. You can change the way you see yourself. And when your view of yourself changes, your decisions begin to change. A person who believes they are capable begins taking opportunities. A person who believes they can learn begins asking questions. A person who believes they can improve stops being destroyed by mistakes. A person who believes their future can be better starts preparing for that future. Confidence is not pretending that you have no weaknesses. Confidence is knowing that your weaknesses do not have to stop your growth. You can say, "I don't know this yet, but I can learn." You can say, "I've never done this before, but I can try." You can say, "I failed before, but I can improve." You can say, "I don't know exactly what tomorrow will bring, but I will not be afraid to face it." That is confidence. And confidence becomes powerful when you combine it with action. Don't wait until you feel completely confident. Start moving, and confidence will grow along the way. Think about someone entering a new workplace. On their first day, they may feel nervous. They don't know everybody. They don't know every process. They don't know exactly what is expected. But every day they learn a little more. After a month, they feel more comfortable. After 6 months, they understand the environment. After a year, they may be helping someone else who is experiencing the same nervousness they once felt. What changed? They kept showing up. They allowed themselves to be beginners. They didn't demand perfection from themselves on the first day. You need to give yourself that same permission. If God is taking you into a new season, you may not know everything immediately. That's okay. You don't need to know everything. You need to be willing to learn. You need to be willing to grow. You need to be willing to take the next step. Your next season may not look exactly the way you imagined it. Sometimes we become so attached to one specific picture that we fail to recognize an opportunity because it arrives differently. You may have imagined one career, but another opportunity opens. You may have imagined one path, but life takes you somewhere unexpected. You may have expected success to happen quickly, but the process takes longer. Don't reject something valuable simply because it doesn't match your original plan. Stay open, stay aware, stay prepared. God can work through unexpected paths. And remember, a new season does not mean everything becomes easy. You may still face challenges. You may still experience disappointment. You may still have difficult days, but you can face them differently. The difference is not always what happens around you. Sometimes the difference is who you have become. The same storm that once terrified you may not have the same power over you today because you have learned how to stand. The same rejection that once destroyed your confidence may now teach you to keep looking for the right opportunity. The same failure that once embarrassed you may now remind you that you are capable of starting again. That is growth. Growth means the thing that once controlled you doesn't control you anymore. So don't be afraid of your next season. Don't keep asking, what if something goes wrong? Ask, what if something goes right? What if this is the season where you finally discover what you are capable of? What if this is the season where your consistency begins producing results? What if this is the season where the opportunity you have been waiting for finally arrives? What if the years of preparation finally begin making sense? You don't know, and you don't have to know everything today. You just have to walk forward with confidence. Lift your head, straighten your shoulders. Stop apologizing for wanting more from your life. Stop allowing old failures to convince you that new opportunities are dangerous. Stop allowing old rejection to convince you that nobody will ever choose you. Stop allowing yesterday to speak louder than the possibilities of tomorrow. God has not finished with you. There is still growth ahead. There are still lessons ahead. There are still opportunities ahead. There are still moments that can surprise you. And when you walk into that next season, don't walk in as the person who was defeated by yesterday. Walk in as the person who learned from yesterday. Walk in with wisdom. Walk in with courage. Walk in with patience. Walk in with confidence. You don't have to know exactly what is waiting around the corner. You only need to believe that you are capable of facing it. Your past is behind you. Your next season is in front of you, and you have a choice. You can keep standing at the old door, staring at what didn't happen, or you can turn around and walk toward what is next. So walk. Walk even if you are nervous. Walk even if you don't have every answer. Walk even if nobody understands the journey. Walk because your future deserves your attention. Walk because your potential deserves a chance. Walk because you have already survived enough to know that you are stronger than you once believed. And above everything else, remember this. You are not entering your next season empty-handed. You are carrying experience. You are carrying lessons. You are carrying strength. You are carrying wisdom. And you are carrying the potential God placed inside you. So step forward. Believe again. Try again. Build again. Dream again. And don't let the fear of what happened before prevent you from experiencing what could happen next. Your next chapter is not required to look like your last chapter. Your future is not required to repeat your past. You are allowed to become someone stronger, wiser, braver, and more confident. So walk into your next season with your head held high, because the chapter behind you has taught you enough. Now it is time to see what is waiting ahead. Your next season is calling you. Walk forward with confidence and let nothing hold you back anymore.